5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Estate Social Rockstar Show. Today, we have a ridiculously amazing show for you. Trust me on this one. We have an amazing guest who is going to answer the following question. The question we have online today is, what is the one shift that you can make that is going to help you go from being a loser to being a leader? One major shift. What is that going to be? Hold on tight, because that's what we're going to answer. And today, who we have on the show to answer this amazing question is Aaron Pierson. How you doing, Aaron?
Dude, I am great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I know we've been trying to connect for a while, so dude, we're finally here.
Well, you're a busy guy. You are, doing awesome things all over the place. So it's phenomenal to have you on the show. I'm going to give everyone a very brief introduction to who you are, and then I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to give a little bit of an introduction to introduce yourself, so people understand that they should be listening in and really paying attention with intent. So to step back a little bit, I met you because you're connected with all these awesome people that I follow, and that's originally how we connected. And so I know you do a lot of things. You run an agency, Vitals. And I know that you do a lot of things. I'm going to tell you what I've seen you do. I've seen you do a lot of branding, help, and support with a lot of people. I've seen you've been involved with user experience. I'm going to ask you to talk about that a little bit. I've seen you've been involved with so many things, growing companies. Would you mind giving a brief introduction into who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And just so you know, I don't know if it was our connection or what, but it was a little unstable there for a second. So I missed that first part of what you said, but you asked me what I do, right?
Yeah, so Aaron Pierson, let's just do this again. So Aaron, if you don't mind just telling people, I know you're an awesome rock star and you're super connected with awesome people that I know. And I've seen some amazing stuff you've done, but can you give people a brief introduction into who you are?
Yeah, so essentially, I am an agency owner. I've owned and worked for myself. Owned businesses, worked for myself since I was about 18 years old. I haven't been W-2'd since I was 18. So that just kind of gives you some perspective of, I've been like very solo, very entrepreneurial, very risk-taking for a very long time. But I own an agency for about 6 years, sold that company about 4 years ago, and then started working as a private consultant. Since then, I've been creating a bunch of content, writing books, doing podcasts, and really just, kind of trying to create my own voice in this world, because for so long I was helping other people build their audiences, create their own voices. And I'm like, man, these guys are getting so many good things from what we've created for them. Like, why am I not doing this for myself? So in the last couple of years, I've gotten really intentional about creating more content, trying to provide more value for people that really need help building their brand. And that's pretty much what all my content is predicated around, is building a brand. My book is all about branding. My book is Brand Dominance: How to Create a Disruptive Social Brand. And this is #1 bestseller on Amazon. I've got a handful of different artifacts all over the place. So that's on kind of my personal brand side. I write for Huffington Post. I've, in the process of trying to land a column on Entrepreneur and Inc. and things like that. So I create a lot of content personally. Professionally, I own an agency where we essentially design businesses. Companies align themselves with their customers, but that's essentially what we do. Now, the medium in which that happens and how that manifests could be a lot of different things. It could be video production, it could be web development, it could be app creation. There's a handful of different things that could come from that. But ultimately, my goal is to help brands connect themselves with their customers in more meaningful ways.
Gotcha. So something I want to throw out there, right? There's a lot of content out there. And I have on my phone, if I go on my phone, I look at like podcasts that I have like 500 different podcasts, right? You can't possibly listen to all of them. I religiously listen to yours, right? So first of all, whoever wants to listen to a podcast, like I'm telling you, this is the one I listen to. You should listen to it. How do people find your podcast, The Branding Like a Boss?
Yeah, just type in Aaron Pierson in iTunes or Branding Like a Boss. You can also pretty much just type in Aaron Pierson into Google and you'll find all sorts of cool shit on there. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if we're live streaming. Yeah, you find all sorts of cool stuff.
Not gonna be able to listen to your podcast either.
Yeah, right. So my podcast is pretty explicit. I'm very authentic and I'm just real. You know, some people love it, some people hate it. I get both, both responses from my listeners. But yeah, just Google my name and you'll find it. If you go to aaronpearson.com, all the podcasts live there. All my articles live there. Anything that I publish on any other, big publication site, I also syndicate on there as well. So yeah, aaronpearson.com.
Awesome. So we're going to jump into a second and answer this major question. I just want to throw this out there. So I listen a lot to your podcast when I'm walking my dog in the evening. All right. That's when I listen in. And there's so many things that I've gotten from your podcast. And maybe if I mention a few of those things, people will listen up because there are things that stimulated my brain. And that's why I think what we're going to talk about tonight is going to stimulate their brain as well. Because it's just how you talk. You had one podcast where you're talking about figuring out what you're about, what's the why. And you gave an example of if you want to find out what your why is, ask yourself why 3 times over. That was such an impactful thing for me. Can you repeat what it is that you said in that podcast? And then everyone go listen to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And hopefully I can repeat it the same because when I'm in the moment of creating content, like I have my notes out, I'm writing things down. So I'll try to give it and deliver it with the same amount of impact. But yeah, I mean, the question that people I think fail to ask themselves is why are you doing what you're doing? And Simon Sinek says it best. He has a book that says start with why. And he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I was reading an article somewhere and they brought up these 3 whys. And it was just really interesting. It's because if you can relate to why it is that you do, and then you project that out into the marketplace to either your audience or your potential customers, you're actually able to make a more humanized connection because you really understand why it is you do what you do. So the exercise is simple. You say, well, why am I, let's say, for example, in real estate? Well, because I like getting big fat commission checks. Okay, why do you like getting big fat commission checks? Or maybe your why is different. Maybe your why is because I really like working with people. Most people aren't really attached to the idea of like selling 4 walls and some windows. Like they like working with people. They like being mobile. Maybe that's their why. I don't know. But then the next phase is, well, why is that important? And then the next phase is, well, why does that even matter? And if you can truly answer those 3 whys, you really have clarity on who you are, and you're able to project that out to the rest of your audience or the rest of your clients. I think that people can kind of sniff out whether you are in it for the right intentions or the wrong intentions really early on. And that can be based on the way you position yourself, or the type of content that you post or share, or if you don't create anything, people can pick up on that stuff. So if you're really authentic and truly know your why as to what you're doing, people will connect to that more than they'll connect to, oh, you'll save $500 or I'll, come to free home inspection, or we'll give you $500 rebate towards whatever those other things are that are sales gimmicky. People identify with why. It's a humanized approach to creating a relationship. And it's not just about numbers and tricky sales lingo. Yeah.
So one of the reasons it also stuck with me is while you're talking, I went into my drawer over here, right? And I have, I don't know if everybody can see on screen, but for those of you who are listening to this later, I have in here all these different articles that I've saved for years, okay? Like this article's from November 99, the Wall Street Journal, and articles that in some way affected, how I think, right? Old school stuff, right? And when before I got into real estate for a very short period of time, I interned at that time it was called Payne Weber. I worked for like a financial private wealth management team, like it was a summer job, and they hired a consultant to come in and analyze their business. They were like the number 1 team in New York City, huge, had crazy amount of money that they were managing, and the person gave them an article to read that asked them 3 times over, why is it that you're doing this? And now 16 years later, I'm on this podcast and I hear you coming back with this. And I was like, oh my God, this stuff is like biblical. This is so great. So anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, and everybody should listen into that podcast. But now to jump into the topic of this show, because it's an important topic and it's something that I'm curious to see what it is you have to say about. Talking about going from being a loser to a leader. And first of all, tell us, what does that mean? What does that question mean? What does it mean to go from a loser?
Yeah, that was a deep question, because when you asked me that, I'm like, no, this is a topic that no one's ever talked about. And then I had to sit down and ask myself, well, am I a leader? I know I've been a loser before, so I'm qualified to answer the question, right? You can't talk about this topic without going from, one end of the spectrum to the other. That's a whole nother show, in fact. This is interesting. So, do I even consider myself a leader? And I guess the only reason that I feel qualified to answer this question is because of the messages and the tweets and the engagement that I have from my audience. And even from what you're saying now, you're validating the fact that the content that I'm providing out there is providing you value. It's inspiring you. Hopefully it's engaging you and forcing you to think in a new way. Right? And so because of the fact that you're validating it, the people in my inbox are validating it, the people on social media validate it, I feel like I'm qualified to somewhat answer this question. What was your last question, though? Because now I kind of went off on a little tangent there.
No, so my last question was, what does it mean to go from being a loser to a leader? You're going to tell people how they go from being a loser to a leader. I can tell you, we didn't really review very much about what we were going to talk about. This is a very unscripted live show. That's the purpose. So I just said to you, I asked you, what are some things that you're passionate about? And you gave us a few things. So I'll tell you what I meant by the question. So you're going to be completely off guard. What I meant by the question was that you have a lot of people that are either on social or they're out there in the world, whatever it may be. And first of all, maybe they see themselves as a loser in some way. They think that they don't have any influence. They don't care, that nobody seems to be liking their posts if it's a social media platform. Nobody seems to be sharing what they're saying. They're not getting fans. They're not, they're just like, they think nobody cares. They're boring in some way. And then all of a sudden they become there are other people out there who are like a leader, right? People like you who, when you mention things, people comment on it. When you write an article, everybody wants to read it. I mean, we connected, right? You're in Phoenix. I'm in New York City. I mean, you're connected with all these people. You are one of the podcasts I'm listening to, and I have a very limited amount of time. That means, to my mind, you're a leader, obviously. There's only a few people I listen to. So how does somebody go from being a loser to a leader? And to be honest, I think I was a loser. And I think a little bit, I'm trying to lead in some way, and people come on this show, so I must be doing something right. But I want to analyze it with you. What do you think moves people?
Yeah. So, here's the thing. And if you look at some of my posts, like if you go to my actual page, I want to just note that when I post a podcast, sometimes I get 3 likes and that's it. When I go to Twitter, I'll get, 50. So I think that a lot of this too has to look at, are you posting content on the appropriate platform? I want to go back to like the root of what defines kind of a loser when it comes to creating social media content. I think a loser is somebody who doesn't actually create content for a specific audience. They pretty much create it for themselves. And the answer to the big question at hand, which is like, what is the one shift? And the phrase that I want to bring up, which I haven't really talked about on my podcast, is brand affinity. And affinity essentially is when a customer and a company share the same values, or when a company and an audience share an affinity around that. Now, to me, that's what differentiates the high level engaging content to noise. So I guess we could stop saying loser and leader and start saying like noise and authority, right? Because noise to me is something that, it's just this blend. Everybody's kind of singing and throwing up. And you get that a lot when you listen to a lot of podcasts. I was actually guilty of it. If you look at my YouTube channel, there's some videos on there that almost emulate Gary Vee's videos when he started. So like, in the moment for me, it was like real time. I was creating content and it wasn't really getting any traction because it wasn't really, first of all, content that I was curating. It wasn't geared towards any specific audience. So I think to create this brand affinity and to become a leader in your content and in your space, you first really need to know who it is attracted to that type of content. What are their values? What are their belief systems? And how can you align with them? So like, just to give you an example, like, and I'll just draw this on a piece of paper here. As you can tell behind me, I'm obsessed with sticky notes. So over here you have a customer, right? Or an audience or a listener. And over here you have your brand and your business. And there's this huge gap between the two, right? So the question is, how do we fold this gap? How do we marry these things together on a much closer scale? And the best way to do that is to get a really good understanding of who is your audience. What are your values? Most people don't even define their own values. And then how can I curate content and create artifacts online that are more meaningful, that really connect people to my content? That's the trick. And not only that, are you putting your content on the right platform? Is the platform applicable? Facebook is probably my least favorite platform for sharing the type of content that I create, because the audience on there, they when I post a picture of my kids and my wife and I, for Thanksgiving or whatever, a really nice photo, because we do a lot of photography, people go nuts over it. They love it. I get 100+ like. When I post a podcast episode that I've spent, 10 hours creating and put my heart and soul into, and I only get, 5 likes, it just shows me it doesn't mean that it's a bad piece. What it means is that audience, I'm not connected to the audience in that way. We don't share the same values and beliefs. The values and beliefs that the audience on Facebook connects with me is from a family perspective, right? So knowing that.
It's talking about connecting with his audience. So it's an interesting thing. So on Facebook, recently, I posted a picture of, in my apartment, I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she was putting up all these little dolls. On the handlebars in my apartment, and I made some comment how my daughter likes to throw parties in her apartment because she's with all the little dolls all over. She puts these little groupings that like she's really strategic with where she puts these little dolls. And I took this picture and I said my daughter loves to throw parties, and I got I don't know what it was, 150 likes for this little picture. And when I post some real estate things, I don't know if I posted here's a new listing or something like that, it'll be like crickets, So that's, I definitely, I'm sure everybody has many stories like that. Or if I post a picture of my dog also right away, I put my pit up there, we're getting 150 likes,
Right. So, and I mean, the thing is knowing that, use that knowledge to your advantage, right? Don't post a bunch of stuff on your Facebook that people just aren't going to engage in, because and I've actually lowered that. I have a Facebook page now where people who like my content can go and see that content, right? And people on my personal page, sometimes I'll post something if I'm really stoked or excited about it. And I'm surprised. Sometimes people come out of the woodwork and they're like, "Whoa, that was really cool," or "Oh, I listened to that." But I think, part of knowing who your audience is not only knowing their values and what they're trying to achieve, but also what platforms are they most engaged on? What is the best way to reach out to them? What type of technology do they use? So we go through, at our agency, part of our process is doing a 2-day brand discovery and strategic workshop. And we help people really identify and carve out who are these personas, what are their behaviors, what are their psychological behaviors, right? I'm not talking about their general demographic. I'm talking about what really drives and motivates these people. What pains do they have? What do they hope to gain? And what solutions can you as a realtor provide to these people? Absolutely critical. Most people for that, they just think they know what everyone wants, and that's not going to create affinity. That's going to create noise. So that's the difference between loser and leader type of content.
So for somebody to move from a loser to a leader, my takeaway so far is, number one, you need to be in the right audience. If you're in the wrong audience, you're going to be a loser. Nobody cares about what you have to say. So you're going to be, by definition, a loser, or you're just going to be making noise that nobody wants to hear. But if you go to the right audience, the people who want to hear your message, what you have to say, then you're going to be a value and you're going to be a leader, because everyone wants you to lead them and share your content with them and And I get that. So now let me bring that a little bit home to some of the agents that might be listening into the show, or will be listening to the show later, or hearing it on a podcast, whatever it may be. Let's say you are a real estate agent and you're new to the industry. Okay, so you don't have a huge past client database. You're new agent. And you want to get out there and you want to start communicating with people to build those relationships, and you want to be a leader. What are some things that you would tell those people to keep in mind when they're starting off in their career?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm happy that you asked that, because that's really the next step to this conversation. It's a natural progression, because Joshua Smith says this really well, and I agree with it. He says more people spend more time designing their grocery list than they do their life. And I think that as an individual, as an entrepreneur or a realtor or whatever position you're in, you need to have some clarity on who it is that you are striving to become. And you need to find an alignment, a balance between your personal goals and your business goals. Okay. So for someone who's new and just starting out right away, the idea is to look like the least risky option. So how do we make you look like the least risky option with zero experience? Well, the best way to do that is to niche down, right? An inch wide and a mile deep. So if you come off as saying, I am the only person in the greater New York area that sells horse properties, okay, and sells them in under 60 days. Are you guys still there?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, good. So you position yourself as the authority, as the only person who does this. And Marty Neumeier, who's a guy I interviewed on my my podcast, calls it the onlyness statement. What is the only thing that you do that other people don't? And can you come up with that statement and position that on your content? You really want to look the least. Come out and say a thing for everyone. You're known for any one thing. And what I'm talking about isn't revolutionary, but I want you to think of how can you look like the least risky option. So for example, on your website, if you're trying to sell only horse properties, then you better have a really sexy horse property on that homepage. You know, you better have testimonials from people with pictures of them on their horse, okay? Like, you need to be the person that is the person in that space, right? So when you go and you sit on a listing presentation at a potential horse property, and you're like, here, listen, look at my brochure, and there's pictures of people with horses and shit. Like, they would flip, dude. Like, you look like the least risky option. I don't care who comes in next. They're going to be like, but this person, they share the same values and goals that we do, right? And it's true. The thing is people don't spend enough time aligning what are they personally interested in to their business to position themselves properly. So I would say first, do a little bit of, personal house cleaning, right? And figure out what activities do you really enjoy doing? What type of people do you enjoy working with? And then position yourself as that, because whatever you put out there, I mean, you'll attract something, but you don't want to attract everybody. You want to attract the type of like-minded customers that you want to work with, that value you for you, and look like the least risky option.
That's fantastic. So I was speaking every day in my company. We have something called the Meier Accelerator Program. So it's every day, all agents, we get together and we have 1 hour of, education, training, coaching, mind mastermind type stuff, right? Today, one of the agents was talking about what they should be sending out to their database, their sphere from their, previous employment before they became an agent. What should they be sending out on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis? What should they be talking about to those people? And I'm curious what you think about this. I said to them, well, there's one thing that's really unique about you right now. You're new to real estate and you're entering a new job. You have a big task ahead of you. And you have, you're obviously ambitious. You're switching industries and everybody's interested in what real estate agents do. It's a sexy job, right? We have TV reality shows about us, right? And I said, what if you took every month and talked about what it is that you did that month as a new agent? People are going to want to listen to it because it's new. But if you pack it and make people sweat by just seeing how much you've actually done, you're going to be positioning yourself as not just the new agent, but the agent that outworks and outsmarts and is just more dedicated than anyone else, that people are going to be rooting for your success. they're going to want to be your story.
Mhm.
And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, and whether you think that's a good idea, and just, I don't know, I love how you think.
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think that anything that somebody can do to humanize the experience between their professional business and their end customer, the idea is to humanize that process as much as possible. So people love behind the scenes. People love, I mean, we're doing a live stream right now. What's cool about this, again, this is a very similar thing. She could even do a series of live streams talking about, okay, today I'm trying to write my first contract and I'm not sure what to do, and like going around like, it would be funny. People would identify with that. It's like, this contract is ridiculous. It's 10 pages long. Why do we need a 10-page contract? I don't know. Like, people identify with that kind of quirky, authentic thing. And what I love about live stream is, like, you can't mess up. If I start going off on a tangent and then I'm like, what did you just say? Like, that's real. This clearly isn't scripted, right? Yeah. So people like really identify with that real life, authentic stuff. And again, this isn't new, but I think some people are kind of afraid. They're afraid to be exposed. They feel like, this side of me before, or should I do it, or is it going to hurt me in the future? Here's the thing. You could get business from anybody if you really, really try. For me, and I've done that before, my old agency was full of clients and we had hundreds of clients, but they weren't with who I was trying to become. We have like all of these clients, and they weren't great. They weren't that great. I'll just be honest. They were bad clients. Okay. And I recognized that early on, but that's because I was just saying yes to friggin' everybody. And I wasn't really honing in on, okay, who is the type of person that I actually want to work with? So, for a new agent that's wondering, well, what should I send out on a monthly basis? Absolutely. I think it's a great idea, man. Talk about your struggles. Talk about, maybe some of the ridiculousness or some of the, archaic systems that are still out there, like the bloody MLS, dude, like, that's still like so crude and archaic. It's like they need a user experience designer to come in and just help them with that, because it's horrible to navigate. I don't know what it's like in New York, but here, Armless, they need some help. I'd like their CEO's phone number. Shout out to them. But man, I think that just don't really being just real. No, dude, this is the type of stuff. This is the type of stuff that, should be. And that's the other thing. If you kind of go against the grain too of what everyone's expecting, the idea is disruptor, disrupted. Vaynerchuk speak at Inbound last, was it like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were going to connect in New York. And he was talking about companies and businesses, like they need to be coming up with ways to put themselves out of business. And if you're not innovating, if you're not disrupting, then you are being disrupted. So don't do what everybody's doing. Don't write that article. Don't do that episode that has already been done in just another way, shape, or form. If you can find a topic that you think is really interesting, but also controversial, talk about it, expose it, because most likely you're not the only person that's thinking like that. And, just because people think it, they don't voice it, doesn't mean that it's not something that they identify with, right, or resonate with. So, just being you and showing that, I think will humanize, that experience.
Yeah. So and actually, you raised something I really want to talk about here for a second. Get a little bit deep on. So when I tell people about my company, Meier Real Estate, I always say that we are a powerful group of individuals who work together as a team, right? And what I mean by that is, I look to hire individuals. I look to hire leaders. I look for people that don't expect me to give, but that come in and they come and they when they come here, we offer a lot. I don't want them to just kind of expect a handout. I want them to come in and ask for it. I want them to come and work for it, right? I look for people that are going to be leaders, right? And so what I really would like to, you just got me thinking about this, because if you're going to become a successful real estate agent, like if you really want to become successful, not just do a couple of deals, you want to be like big, you need to be a leader. You need to be someone that looks at yourself like a company and builds yourself up and has pride no matter where you are. And so when an agent starts in this business, and I'm just using my company as an example, but there's a lot of great companies out there, but I'm just using mine because, that's what I know. So if you're an agent now getting into the business and you want to show your uniqueness, are there some things that you could give people to think about, questions maybe they can ask themselves, just ways for them to pop as an individual and not just do the same things everyone does, like, oh yeah, I got a new deal, or I found a buyer today. What can we do?
Just list it. So let me also tell these people too, because so far, like, I want everyone to be clear that I'm not a realtor, but the majority and the largest body of work that we've done as an agency has been real estate related. We work with Conversion and Big Purple Dot and a handful of brokerages out here. We've helped them grow immensely. Okay. So I'm more than qualified. I've done my 90 hours, but I'm not a licensed realtor. Okay. I did my 90 hours so I could understand and identify what it is that, that people are experiencing. Right. Questions that, new agents should ask themselves. And these might seem kind of simple and rudimentary, but, and we already did the whys. Definitely ask yourself the why. Why are you in this business? What are you really trying to do? What are you looking for? Is it freedom? Is it, the commission checks? Is it working with people? It could be all those things. But, I would also ask yourself, what if I build whatever I'm about to build, because as an agent, you're building a business, you're self-employed, you are an entrepreneur, even if you're working for a broker, you got to ask yourself, well, what type of daily activities, like, am I really good at? How can I manage my weaknesses or leverage my weaknesses with other people on the team or by leveraging the brokerage, and then really amplify what I'm really good at. So figure that out. Figure out what it is that you're good at, what it is that you want to spend the majority of your daily activity doing. Now, I've talked about this on my podcast before. It's impossible to avoid sending emails. Like, that's probably the thing that's the bane of my existence. I hate coming in, I get 50 emails and I'm like, shit, I got to respond to all these today. That I hate it. So there's some work that you just can't get away from. But I will tell you that if you truly define what it is that you want out of your business, then once you're aware of it, you can start manifesting that. Now, that may sound a little woo-woo. I'm totally about vision boards, man. I have vision boards. I actually use Trello. I don't know if you guys use Trello at all. It's a project management Scrum system. So I use Trello, and I put all the places that I want to travel are in there. The things that I want to do, the experiences that I want to have, the things I want to do with my family. There's pictures. So my Trello board is full of pictures. It's pretty much it's a vision board. And when I'm done with them, because I do the things that I dream about, and I don't just do them because financially I can do that. I do them because I think about them, right? I do them because it was an idea that manifested into reality. Everything that we have in our lives is a direct result of our thoughts. So if you're thinking about something, it will manifest itself. So think about, how does your business look? Are you a slave to your computer 10 hours a day? Or are you spending a bunch of time with people? Are you engaging? Are you on the phone? Are you sending emails? Like, craft out, what does that perfect day look like? And figure out a way to literally have a business that, that fits within that lifestyle. So I'll give you a perfect example. And this is my example. It's not necessarily related to real estate, but I wanted to add travel into my business. I wanted to travel. I'm like, how can I do this? So we've been doing these workshops and they've been really successful. I said, well, maybe we could start doing workshops all around the globe. So boom, within like 3 months, we land one in London, right? So I'm out in London for 2 weeks. And then boom, like now we're going next in a couple of weeks, we're headed off to New Zealand, and then possibly Japan and Sydney. And I mean, aside from the fact that I'm doing all of these in the States as well, all over the country, it's phenomenal. But until I thought about it, and before it was a thought, it was like this kind of dream. And then when I really started thinking about it, I incorporated it into my business. I changed the copy on my website. I started reaching out to potential opportunities that was in alignment with those thoughts, right? And it just took a little bit of time to actually manifest, but it does. So the idea is, if you're new, carve out, what does the perfect day look like, and start Xing out activities that don't align with that. Finding people and resources within your organization to manage your weaknesses so you can amplify your strengths.
That's phenomenal. That's great. And it's about leverage, right? Leveraging things so that you can focus on what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. That's great.
I've had superhero syndrome. I don't know if we're running out of time, but I'll just say I've had superhero syndrome where I've wanted to take on every aspect of my business. And that is not for me. Like that, I've recently, I think the biggest thing you could do is relinquish some of that power. Even though you're in charge, doesn't mean you have to do everything. Totally leverage your broker, leverage all the resources that you have, and focus on the things that you're really good at.
Yeah, that is 100% true. It's I try to incorporate that in my business and running a brokerage. It's what's interesting is over time, I can just speak from my personal experience. Over time, when I was newer in the business, there are things, like you said, things that you need to do, right? Like I do a lot of direct mailing. I used to, stamp and address and do all that stuff on my own because I couldn't afford someone else to do it, right? But I had to do it, right? And I did it. But in my mind, it's not something I wanted to do. It's right. Not something I knew it needed to get done. But in my mind, I knew eventually I was going to get someone to do that for me. I needed to do certain things to get to that point. But it was always in my mind, oh, this is a temporary thing, and my business plan is going to lead to that not being there anymore. Right. And so just having that perspective will force you to leverage. You don't have a choice because you need to get out of that activity you don't want to be doing.
Yeah, there's no way to avoid hard work, but instead of thinking about how you can avoid the hard work, think about how you can leverage the resources that you have, because most people have so many resources that are unutilized. And now when I discover a resource, I test it out, and it could be a person, it could be a service or something. I test it out. And if I find that I was able to save time and then apply that time towards making this other thing a reality, then I continue to use that resource.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up with, first of all, one quick thought for people. One of the reasons that I love listening to your podcast and hearing you talk to people and everything like that is you get my mind to think. You're always asking questions that get me to internalize and to self-reflect and to think about what are those things that I enjoy doing and not enjoy doing. And then think about what am I going to do to build my business so that I can live the life of my dreams, which means trying not to do the things I don't like to do as much as possible. And trying to do things that I like to do as much as possible. And you, number one, you give me that you give me that encouragement. You give me that self-reflection. I appreciate that. You definitely are valuable in my life. So I want to, thank you. And I know that I've thanked you in a private message, but I want to thank you in front of the world because you really contribute a lot. You come from a point of contribution. It's fantastic. Everybody should connect with you on that level. And if people do want to connect with you, what is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Honestly, just go to aaronpierson.com. On there, you can see all the podcasts. You can sign up for my official newsletter because I'm not very consistent with it. So I just say that out of the gate. That's probably, from there, you can see all of our social stuff. So, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat. Obviously my Snapchat game is pretty strong these days. So yes. Yeah, choose your platform.
Fantastic. And I'm just gonna go, oh, there he is, Aaron Pierson on my Snapchat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice. I've got the live stream going on my phone, so.
Okay, cool. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on this show. I appreciate you sharing and giving us your time. And everybody, like I said, you should connect with you. If anybody would like to connect with me, they connect with me on Facebook or on any of the social platforms at Michael Meier NYC. My name is Michael Meier, Meier Real Estate. This is a Real Estate Social Rockstar show. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. And Aaron, you're a rock star. Thanks for being on the show.
Awesome, man. We'll see you guys.